fighting, and there's no cartridges, there's no bullet shot at you.
I think he could have done it better. It has backfired very badly.
More intelligently.
And more intelligently.
I don't want to engage in any unhelpful arguments with them. These are very junior politicians.
Who is kidding who? The politics of the Wetangula gun attack. Drama as family finds body of their relative missing from a Muranga morgue.
I saw a boy seated on a bed with even tattered clothes. She looked horrible, actually. Horrible. Let me use that word, horrible.
The man who spent his savings, pension, sold his land and vehicles to help other people's children. And is it true that any kind of work is work? The untold stories of commercial sex workers.
KTN Weekend Prime with Yvonne Okwara.
I trust you had a great week. Good evening and welcome to our bulletin this weekend. It is the 11th of January 2014. Many thanks for joining us. We have some great stories lined up for you, as you have seen. And of course, as always, during all our primetime bulletins, we are joined by William Silla, who's our sign language interpreter, a first on Kenyan television, making sure that the deaf can also participate in our news. Let's begin tonight with Senator Moses Wetangula's disputed shooting incident. Today, Jubilee and CORD leaders exchanged harsh words, with the ruling coalition rubbishing claims of an assassination attempt as cheap propaganda stage managed to seek public attention. The Inspector General of Police is also saying preliminary investigations reveal Wetangula's car hit a roadside advertising banner and was not shot at. Statements that have infuriated CORD leaders who say the government is not taking the matter seriously. Sam Ogina begins our bulletin with that report.
A day after alleging an assassination plot against him, Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula ditched his vehicle, opting for a chopper touring Kitale. Wetangula and Ford Kenya parliamentarians fired salvos at the Inspector General of Police for dismissing the shooting theory.
Tunaomba Kimayo aje mzaha. Afanye ile kazi alipewa na wananchi na atupatie ripoti. Nini ilitendeka? Sio kukuja na my scapegoats kusema iligonga huko na huko. Na iwapo ripoti yake haitakuja kamili, sisi tutajua bungeni vile we are going to deal with him accordingly.
Wetangula is he a fool? Utuambia yeye atikari yake iligonga kiosk.
The IG indicated preliminary investigations into the saga debunked the shooting theory, but rather that Wetangula's car hit an advertising banner on the roadside.
So this is
This contradicting CORD assertions of an assassination attempt on Wetangula. The Bungoma senator now claims a senior police figure tried coercing his driver into recanting his testimony over the alleged shooting.
My driver was told by a senior police officer to admit that he hit the car on a billboard. Billboard yenyewe iko karibu mita 8. Malori inapita hapo chini. Gari ngegonga billboard iko juu na gari.
Jubilee Alliance parliamentarians delved into the saga, wrapping Wetangula of staging a flopped shooting ordeal. Wetangula, who has linked the saga as an attempted plot to silence him over the standard gauge railway tender, says he remains unbowed and will unmask the rot in the multi-billion railway tender.
So it's very, very shameful. We know this country. One time, a member of parliament in last government, according to the police, shot his own car. He sprayed bullets on his own car in last parliament. So in my opinion, that guy was more intelligent than Moses Wetangula.
I want to ask my brother Moses to just hold his peace, come back to the house. We engage there. We respect him. He's a good lawyer, but on this one, he miscalculated and he has let us down.
Parliament majority leaders in defense of government over the alleged shooting saga told of court to cease politicizing trivial matters likely to polarize the country. They blamed CORD for coining and propagating propaganda at the expense of developing the nation.
If I tell him the owner of that advert banner is looking for you, he has hit a banner, nobody is eliminating an opposition.
It has become now a song for our brothers in the opposition. When somebody quarrels with their spouse, they say it is the Jubilee government. You know, when people have business challenges, they say it's the Jubilee government.
So this is cheap politics, this is falsehood, this is people who are idle and propaganda, and they're looking for cheap attention.
I don't want to engage in any unhelpful arguments with them. These are very junior politicians who don't seem to understand the weight of issues. These are excited young men who have been given positions they don't even deserve.
As police probe the saga, it is already further fueling a war of words between the government and opposition. Samugina, KTN.
Let's move to the judiciary, and the Judicial Service Commission has appointed Anne Atieno Amadi as the new Judiciary Chief Registrar, taking over the office of the former Registrar Gladys Boschele. Anne Atieno Amadi was appointed after the interviews held today of 4 shortlisted applicants. JSC says they put aside the first interviews of 7 candidates last month and re-advertised the position. Anne Atieno Amadi has been an advocate of the High Court of Kenya for 24 years, having started in 1989. According to her profile in the public records of her law firm, she has previously served for 6 years as a magistrate and also as the Deputy Director of the Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA, Kenya. She takes office from Kakai Kissinger, who has been acting Registrar of the Judiciary since October 25th last year. Now, the Deputy Director of Police Reforms, Kingori Mwangi, has defended himself against claims of being on the payroll of drug barons and allegations of scheming to kill 2 administration police officers during his tenure as Coast Province police boss. Kingori told the police vetting panel that the allegations were probably made by people out to malign his name. Patrick Amimo with day 5 of the police vetting exercise.
Your views with regard to the disconnect.
The Deputy Director of Police Reforms, Kingori Mwangi, told the vetting panel that contrary to public perception, the police image was not tainted, though there is need to invest more on attitude change for officers as part of the reforms. Kingori, who at one time served as the Coast Province police boss, defended himself against accusations of aiding and abetting drug trafficking, which even at one time culminated in the killing of 2 administrative police officers who were on the drugs trail.
We just want some honest answers that will help us to understand.
The leadership in a cause is thinking that the leadership within the law enforcement authorities is in the payroll of the drug barons and the others.
There were some of our colleagues who were not happy with us and they wanted to keep on throwing malicious innuendos against us, me and the PCIO then. So I think that is how the name was mentioned. I was transferred on a Wednesday. The shooting happened on a Saturday. And Mr. Nyongeza can come here and confirm to you he was a PPO Coast.
The panel wanted Kingori to explain the killing of Erastus Chemorei, who was a senior GSU officer that kept custody of the key to the 6.4 billion shillings cocaine haul that was seized by police in a private villa in Malindi and a go down in Embakasi.
But when he died, I was PPO Coast. The staff was recovered by the GSU and CID officers I understood in Embakasi. The officer who was a GSU officer never served under me. I needed to be explained. Why should I be asked a question that happened in Kitale? If I told you, we have some people who have an obsession with me. I do understand some of them were paid by some senior civil servants to try to tarnish me.
But we are happy you have responded to the same, which is also in keeping with the spirit of this vetting exercise. Good afternoon, Mr. Dolly. Please be seated.
Acting Coast Regional Coordinator Agri Adoli was put to task to explain what he has done to control the drug menace along the coastline.
What measures have you taken to curb drug users at the coast?
We have arrested so many people carrying bang from other areas to coastal region.
For every group of peddlers, there would be a major supplier, a baron. How plausible is it that we cannot get intelligence from them as to who is the bigger peddler?
Because in the sea we are not properly equipped, and we can admit that. Even they are laughing at us sometimes. So when we don't have speedy boats.
Good afternoon, Mr. Karuti.
Karuti Laibuta, who is a deputy commandant of the Emali-based Administration Police Senior Staff College, dismissed complaints leveled against him that he was incapable of motivating officers.
You are accused of being non-active in ensuring that officers in hardship areas are motivated.
And after the headquarters, I used to give a special focus, special attention to officers in hardship areas by ensuring that their salaries were promptly paid.
On financial probity, Laibuta had a difficult time convincing the vetting panel about his wealth.
If you grow Mira, you know, I grow Mira. There's more earnings from tea. I have some tea chambers. We have spent about more than 10 minutes on this particular question, and we are not getting anywhere. Of which, apart from the job I do also to survive.
That brings to 30 the number of senior police officers who have been vetted. 3 officers have been retired, and they are Jonathan Koskei, Francis Okonya, and Peter Eregai. But they have an option to appeal the employer's decision through a special tribunal. Patrick Amimo, KTN, Nairobi.
Anxious moments preceded a heated exchange in Murang'a County when a family that went to collect the body of their relative from a morgue found the body missing. The body of an elderly man in Kiriaini in Murang'a apparently disappeared mysteriously from the Consolata funeral home. Catherine Omondo with the details.
It took hours before the Kiraini OCS could calm Edward Karaoke's family down. Even then, OCS Kipsaina Serem was at pains to explain how he was going to find Edward's body by Monday morning, given that it disappeared last week from the Consolata funeral home.
Katuambia tulete nguo. Sasa akaenda akafalishwa nguo. Wakati alifalishwa nguo tukaitwa tumuone. Kufika hapo kwanza nikajiuliza kwani mtu akileta huku nywele umea. Kwa sababu babangu anakuanga nywele hapa kuna kipala, nywele ziko huku. Sawa, wengine mzee mwingine alikuwa hapo akasema huyu ndiye Karaoke. Akatoka nje. Mimi nikabaki tu hapo, nimesimama tu hapo. Ningoje sasa kama hao wengine wataingia. Hao wengine kuingia ndio mambulala walisema huyu si mbamba yao.
When mortuary attendants were asked where Edward Karaoke's body was, they said they had no idea.
Sasa sisi tukauliza kwa nini wao ule alirecord fridge namba fulani kama anasema fridge namba 11. Na ile mwili anatuambia pengine ndio ilienda ikawa ni yetu, ilikuwa fridge namba 2. Nikawauliza kwani mnafanya kazi mkiwa walevi? Sababu mlevi ndiye tu anaweza confuse hii na ile. Kwa sababu hii hospitali hata mimi kama sifanyi kazi hapa mimi nikipatiwa nitafanya kazi vizuri na hakuna mwili itapotea.
There are 5 bodies left in the funeral home, none of which are Edward, leaving the possibility that Edward Karaoke was buried by another family. But why would another family bury a body that did not belong to them?
Ile tuko naye kwa mochari, tutachukua vidole na tutafute identity yake na itatusaidia tuone kama pengine wale mtu alikuwa ashachukua mwili si ambaye sio yake. Itatusaidia sisi tupate kusaidia wale familia ambaye wako accredited.
Biblia inasema you talk the truth and the truth shall set you free. Tuambie ukweli ili hata sisi tusaidie serikali. Tujue hii mwili iko mahali fulani, kijiji fulani. Kwa sababu wale watu wanafanya kazi hapa, wale watu ambao wanaletwa hapa. Kuna mtu wa Mombasa ama Kisumu wanaletwa hapa. Ni watu wa area hii.
Sova kuna mwili kadhaa imepelekwa kuanzia tarehe 2. Tutajaribu kufuatilia mwili sote.
The family has given the Murang'a County Police until Monday to find their loved one so that he can be finally laid to rest. The Karaoke family say that if the body is not found by Monday, they will sue the hospital for negligence. Catherine Omwando, KTN.
Now, the world is tonight mourning the death of former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. Ariel Sharon, the army general and former Prime Minister of Israel, who was admired and hated almost in equal measure, died today, aged 85. Sharon, an iconic figure who fought in 3 wars before entering politics, was born February 26, 1928, and was later elected Prime Minister on the 7th of March 2001. He had an illustrious career in the military, becoming a commander in the Israeli army and celebrated as a military strategist. In the Arab world, however, he was referred to as the Butcher of Beirut after he oversaw Israel's 1982 invasion of Lebanon while serving as defense minister. This attack turned out to be disastrous, and after an inquiry, he was sacked and banned from ever being defense minister again. He will also be remembered as the man who encouraged Israelis to establish settlements on occupied Palestinian land. However, he was also the same leader that pushed for Israel's historic withdrawal from 25 settlements in the West Bank and Gaza, which was turned over to Palestinian rule for the first time in 38 years. Now, to do this, he had to make the very bold move of leaving his right-wing party Likud and forming the Kadima party. Sharon suffered a mild stroke in December 2005 and was released from the hospital after just 2 days. But a little more than 2 weeks later, while in his 5th year as Prime Minister, he suffered a massive intracerebral hemorrhage from which he never recovered. There was, however, a glimmer of hope in 2011 when his son Gilad told the New York Times that his father could move his fingers when he asked him to, adding that he was sure that his father could hear him. In recent days, however, reports emerged that his vital organs had deteriorated, prompting a bedside vigil by his family. His son Gilad announced his death this afternoon outside the hospital where he was being treated, saying, and I quote, "He has gone. He went when he decided to go." Twice widowed, he is survived by his sons Gilad and Omri. Let's come back to the country now and take you to yet another matter that's creating friction between Jubilee and CORD leaders allied to the Jubilee coalition. Those allied to the Jubilee coalition, rather, now want Marsabit Governor Okwara to face matters of insecurity head-on. The leaders came out to defend the government after leaders from the Orange Democratic Party accused the government of failing to ensure the security of persons in Marsabit. Wilkis Tanyabo reports.
The Jubilee camp came out to issue a response defending itself in the face of pronouncements from the Coalition for Reform and Democracy, blaming Jubilee for failing to curb the rampant insecurity across the country.
Hata serikali ya kitaifa ikituma wanajeshi, hata ikituma polisi, chanzo cha sokomoko na ugomvi ni mambo ya vile rasilimali na kukosevu wa usawa katika hiyo kaunti. Kwa hivyo gavana akiketi na wajumbe wake wa bunge la kitaifa na seneta wake waone vile wataangalia jamii mbalimbali katika ile area, hata hakuna haja ya kutuma wanajeshi kule.
The war of words began when Deputy President William Ruto told Marsabit Governor Okwara to take responsibility for the insecurity in his area. Ruto reportedly said that the government may consider suspending the Marsabit County government if the security situation in Marsabit continues to deteriorate. Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga then waded into the row. He defended the Marsabit governor, saying the governor could not tackle the insecurity in the county alone.
Security is not the responsibility of a county government. It is the responsibility of a national government. And if there are security lapses, it is not the county government to be blamed, the national government to be blamed. Because they have refused to allow the governors to chair the county security committees. So how does the government become responsible for insecurity when he is not chairing the county security committee?
Accountability must go to the president himself because he's the one who appoints the security agencies.
Now, leaders allied to Jubilee have weighed in on the matter, urging the Marsabit governor to stop hiding behind ODM party leaders and face the matter head on.
Shida ya Marsabit ni mambo ya ugavi wa mamlaka na rasilimali. Na ndiposa tunasema ni governor ambaye ni kiongozi wa serikali ya county ndiye ana suluhisho.
As a chief executive of that county, he must sit with the local members of parliament, he must sit with the senator, with the women member of parliament, the MCAs, the religious leaders, the women leaders, the youth leaders, and bring them together, and they work and help the national government and the security agents to make sure that sanity is brought and the loss of life is reduced.
ODM leaders have asked the Jubilee government to take full responsibility and ensure Marsabit is secure even from attackers from neighboring Ethiopia. In recent weeks, Marsabit has been rocked by conflict, pitting communities against each other, a situation that has led to loss of life and property. Wilkinson Abwa, KTN.
Now tonight we want to bring you an inspiring story of a man who has dedicated his life to helping others. For 23 years, Patrick Kimathi has been silently helping street children and orphaned relatives who have now grown to be influential people in society. So passionate was he that he sold his land and used his pension to give a helping hand. KTN's Yvonne Okwara visited him at his home, where he told his story for the very first time.
One man's love for humanity, the care and hospitality he has silently given street children over the last 23 years was the reason we set out for Ngong Town. "25 kilometers from Nairobi and the Ngong Hills are in sight. And after tirelessly trying to find the location of his home, we finally meet 65-year-old Patrick Mwangi. Here, we are welcomed by the presence of young children playing in the compound. Mwangi says even the neighbors' children like being around him.
Joroge, mwambie mama kupatia handkerchief yangu.
His passion of taking care of children started after his wife's uncle and aunt died, leaving behind 3 children. He took them in and treated him as one of their own. This time, he was working as a banker.
Director of National Youth Service by then was Waruhi Tote, Geno China. He was my customer in the bank. He came to the bank one time. I told him, "Mzee, me, I have a problem." So Patrick Tabugani. Mzee, there's a family who lost both parents. They have left children. I don't know what to do with them. And there's one girl who had done Form 4. And I'll be happy if you can take that girl from me to see whether she can take care of the other children. I said, "Patrick, don't bring one, bring 2.
That was in the early 80s, and this was the first step to what he is doing now, a devotion that saw him use all his retirement benefit on. It is a calling that has seen Mwangi adopt children from different backgrounds and different tales, some sadly to be revisited.
I saw a boy seated on a bed with very tattered clothes. She looked horrible, actually. Horrible. Let me use that word, horrible. I got in the knee and then I went to him. I left what I was doing. I went to him. I asked, "What is your name?" He told me, "I'm Paul Kagesha." "You go to school?" "Yeah." "What class are you?" "I'm in Form 4. If you look at the boy who is in Form 4.
For Mwangi, the stories of the children after leaving the home are motivational, which can only inspire him to continue without regrets. Patrick has helped over 50 children so passionately, but has not been without challenges.
My life is not for it, but what can we do? There's nothing I can do. This is a gift from God, and mine is not wealthy for this. I think I'm wealthy enough. I have sold those children my wealth, actually.
However, in 2005, his family suffered a big blow, the death of his second-born son, who died under unclear circumstances, too painful that they opted not to follow up.
Steve died a mysterious death and was married. We found his car at Green Collar Hotel. And then he was found in Malindi. How he went there, we don't know.
During one of his visits to a nearby garbage site where he meets street children, he met Joseph Njoroge, a former street boy. The two had a shared dream. They then founded the Ahadi Education Center, a single-room school where street children are brought for transformation and learn the basics of a better lifestyle. Even Joseph agrees that the children are very fond of Patrick.
They left me and ran to him, and some of them called me and said, "Teacher, could you wende dadiwa mikate?"
Patrick says lack of funding has been the main challenge. Despite the circumstances, the children in this foster care are very talented, and Patrick believes with adequate assistance, they will end up being useful members of the society.
Buda mwenyewe ametula teacher, lakini yeye ni teacher kwenye mabesti. Sema eyo.
Ian Wafula, KTN.
Well, for sure, not many people would do that. In fact, I'm not sure I know of anyone who would say they've given up their entire life just to make sure that other children can get a life of their own. He does indeed need to be celebrated, and that's what we're doing right here on KTN Weekend Prime. On that inspirational note, we want to take a short break right here on KTN Weekend Prime, but please do stay with us because this is what we have coming up for you. Mother My Children for a Day, coming to the rescue of single mothers.
Polisi wenyewe wamesema gari yangu ilipigwa risasi mara pili. Na ajabu ni kwamba dereva yake ameniambia jana ameitwa na kushurutishwa na polisi wa cheo cha juu kumwambia akubali ya kwamba gari yangu iligonga mti. My driver was told by a senior policeman to admit that he hit the car on a billboard. Billboard yenyewe iko karibu mita 8. Malori inapita hapo chini. Gari ikagonga billboard iko juu.
You are watching KTN Weekend Prime.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us on KTN Weekend Prime. Now, life in informal settlements with no steady income can be tough, especially for single parents who must look for money to feed their children, while at the same time ensuring that their children are protected from the dangers surrounding them in their neighborhoods. Now, in Nairobi's Mathare slums, single parents have found a place that takes in their children while they go out to search for their daily bread. Here's Catherine Omwando with more on that.
Even on a laid-back Saturday morning, there is no rest for Nairobi's unemployed. Rose Muhunja needs to leave the slum and look for work that will earn her today's wage.
Saa zingine unajua unaweza pata kibarua nuwezi unakosa mahali pa kuacha mtoto.
Being single, she cannot leave her baby at home, so she and other mothers like her bring their young ones here.
Hii ni baby care yetu, tunaleta watoto wetu hapa, wanatusaidia, wanatungojea watoto wetu vizuri.
On a daily basis, unemployed women looking for odd jobs can earn at least 150 shillings. For Rose, 20 shillings of that money goes to the daycare daily, and she is assured that her child will have breakfast and lunch, meals she cannot assure herself.
And even some parents who aren't able to afford that can speak to us, and we do provide sponsorship. So children who really cannot even bring the basics can also get help.
Inspiration Baby College was started 3 years ago and is funded by sponsors both here in Kenya and abroad. The 20 shillings does go into providing for the children, but for the founders, 20 shillings means more to them and the children who come here.
We charge a small fee because we want people to make a commitment. When something is just free, people don't really take it seriously.
Lakini bado sisi tunataka kuangalia how do we sustain what you're doing so that we don't rely so much on what we sign up to say.
We decided that it was very important to focus on education from the moment a child is born. It is never too early to start learning. And education is the best way out of poverty.
Tunapata wazazi ambao hawajali kama kuna mtoto ambaye tulimchukua kutoka kwa nyumba kwa sababu mzazi alikuwa anamfungia, maana yake ya kuweza kulipa shilingi 20 kwa siku. Sasa ikabidi tumechukua kama Inspirational Baby College na hilo jukumu tumejitwika sisi wenyewe.
The school currently takes care of 60 children. As Rose's baby grows, she can still attend the daycare center that also has early childhood education. And this goes for the same daily cost of 20 shillings.
Imekuwa part of my heart because being raised in this community has been very tough. Kuna so many challenges. So nikaona some of those challenges kuna bahati niweza kuzipitia na nikamaliza shule nikaenda college hizo ma university, but watoto wengi hapa Mathare chances zao za kufika pale ni ngumu.
By making it affordable for parents who are cash-strapped, the center seems to give children the jump start to education they may otherwise would have not had. Catherine Omwando, KTN.
And now to a story that is rarely ever told. Many of us find it easy to criticize and dismiss those members of society referred to as commercial sex workers. But have you ever wondered why a woman, or indeed a man, would choose to engage in such risky business? And what are the experiences of these ladies and men of the night? Take a look.
A 31-year-old Jane Kawira, not her real name, tells us that it takes courage, desperation and strength for a girl or a woman to decide to get into the trade euphemistically called commercial sex work. And she would know because she has been doing this job for the last 10 years.
Your house will be locked, your kids will be kicked out of school, you'll have to borrow food from the neighbors and the family. You see, it's a burden. You'll become a burden to the society.
With this unorthodox job publicly frowned by society but secretly taken advantage of and even enjoyed by men and women alike, Kawira is bringing up her 2 children. She provides for them and ensures they never lack for anything. She believes it is the only job left for a single mother with no basic education and no skills for any serious job.
You get to live with it because there are no jobs.
But Kawira and her friends and colleagues in this trade have stories to tell that would make your blood crawl. Despite being considered a job where girls go for easy money, they tell us it is the riskiest and dirtiest job on the planet. She and her friend, whom we shall call Grace, give gory details of what they go through almost every single night.
I've had an incident of a client beating me up because he refused to pay me my money after what we had agreed and done. So he refused to pay me, so he beat me up.
Last year nilichapwa na mwenye ameajiriwa Ruti Ngekenoba. Juu tulienda na mteja akanilipa 1000 nipe nyumba ya 300 nichukue 700. Wakati nililipa niliambiwa nirudie change, but kurudia change huyo mwenye ameajiriwa hapo alianza kunichapa.
They killed like 3 sex workers.
Okay, we've been having more than 10 murder cases in Nairobi since last year till now. Yeah, where girls are being murdered by the police and also by the clans themselves.
For many ordinary citizens with decent occupation, the police would quickly be accessible and helpful whenever a problem arises. But sex workers say many police officers only pile more torture onto them when they meet.
Askari anaweza kupata kwa barabara. Anaweza kuja akushike, akwambie mwende, baada ya mlipe nyumba anakwambia mwende kwake. Sasa mkienda kwake, anaenda venye mlikuwa mmesikizana anakataa. Sasa unaona sasa atakuchapia kwake.
If you talk, I'll say you had stolen from me.
Why should they be arrested? Okay, they can be arrested, but why should a police arrest as well as beat a sex worker? So those are some of the questions we ask as human rights.
Tulikuwa tunasema tumechoka kutoa hongo, tumechoka kushikwa bure.
Na pia tumekuwa tukisikia cases kadha wa kadha, unakuta msichana amepatikana mali alibebwa jana na client kwa klabu yako, maybe unarudi kusikia kwa mali fulani ametupwa akiwa ameuliwa. Kama last year kulikuwa na kesi ya msichana fulani aliuliwa Dandora, ameuliwa na amewekwa kwa gunia.
Unlike civil society protests that are covered by a bevy of journalists and beamed across radio and TV stations, even demonstrations by sex workers are laughed off by society when they hit the streets to demand fairness. Take the example of the recent demonstrations at City Mortuary, Nairobi, when they claimed a police officer had killed one of their own.
Even sex work is work, like any other work.
But if things are this bad, why do they stay in the business?
In a night I can make like 10,000. So if I can get a job that is paying me every day 10,000 or more than 10,000 every day, I'd go for it.
Kazi yenye unaweza pata ukisema tununue machungwa usunguze uwezi lipa nyumba na uwezi somesa watoto. Sasa mimi nikaamua kufanya sex worker.
Male sex workers also exist, and they have even told stories of being denied medical services when they go to certain hospitals. All said and done, prostitution is still illegal in Kenya and would often get these workers in trouble with the authorities.
10,000 shillings in a night. That is definitely some good money. Just depends on whether that is a job you really want to take up in your life. Right, let's take another short break now. We'll be back with more. After the Masai wedding, bringing home the co-wife.
You are watching KTN Weekend Prime.
Welcome back. Let's now give you a recap of our top story tonight. Today, Jubilee and CORD leaders exchanged harsh words, with the ruling coalition rubbishing claims of an assassination attempt on Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula as cheap propaganda stage-managed to seek public attention. The Inspector General of Police is also saying tonight that preliminary investigations reveal Wetangula's car hit a roadside advertising banner and was not shot at. These statements have infuriated CORD leaders who say the government is not taking the matter seriously enough. Moses Wetangula is also claiming his driver was called by a senior police officer whom he did not name and pressured upon to change his story to discredit the version that they were shot at. Right, now hundreds of Kenyans are set to benefit from free surgery courtesy of the Italian Navy. The 30th Naval Group of the Italian Navy is docked at the port of Mombasa, targeting mostly patients with cleft lips. Ferdinand Omondi reports.
The Italian Navy's 30th Naval Group docked at the port of Mombasa Friday morning, bearing a special gift for patients with cleft lips. Surgeons will bring the natural smiles back to their faces for free. The exercise, operated within a campaign dubbed A Country on the Move, was launched this morning by Italy's ambassador to Kenya, Mauro Massoni, and the Naval Group's Commander Rear Admiral Paolo Treu. The Italian Navy will conduct the operations with the help of several non-governmental organizations, including Operation Smile and volunteer nurses from the Italian Red Cross and Red Crescent.
Brava non-profit foundation, whose doctors are already visiting kids on board supply ship Etna to fight blindness in the infants. Volunteer nurses from the Italian Red Cross and Red Crescent, integrated with both military and civilian medical personnel, working in the hospital on board aircraft carrier Kabur.
While the operations will be conducted aboard the ships, several volunteers from the Navy are out on the mainland conducting several charitable and humanitarian assignments.
Sailors from my ships with great sense of solidarity and humanity, capable of restoring buildings, fixing different kind of machinery, building wooden structures and other things, who are already working here in kindergartens, schools, orphanages and hospitals.
Besides charity work, the Italian Navy is expected to conduct an exchange program with the Kenyan Navy, including training which is aimed at fostering interoperability.
The interchange between Italy and Kenya is quite good. The last data that we have, referring to 2012, says that the total interchange between the two countries amount to 240,000 million euro.
The Country on the Move campaign began in the Middle East and Horn of Africa before the fleet docked in Kenya. They are expected to sail off on the 15th, from where they shall visit other ports in friendly countries around Africa, including Madagascar, South Africa and Morocco. Ferdinand Mundi, KTN, Mombasa.
Indeed, it's time for another short break right here on KTN Weekend Prime. But after the short break, we have all the latest for you. It's been a busy weekend in sports. The details up next.
After the Masai wedding, bringing home the co-wife.
You are watching KTN Weekend Prime.
Welcome. Let's talk sports now. The Kenya Police Service Cross-Country Championships held at the Ngong Riscos Saturday attracted the country's top marathoners before the World Marathon Major season kicks off in Boston. 2012 Berlin Marathon third-place finisher Jeffrey Kipsang and reigning Berlin Marathon champion Florence Kiplagat were, however, the big winners of the day.
It was a day when athletes from all the police service departments came together to compete in the police cross-country championships at the Ngong Racecourse. First on schedule was the women 8 kilometers race that attracted a sizable crowd, all of them eyeing the top honors as well as earned points for their respective departments. Berlin Marathon champion Florence Kiplagat emerged a serious contender within the first 2 kilometers, with Nyahururu-based Mary Wachera threatening to challenge her. Wachera could, however, not keep up and eventually dropped out of the race. Despite no opposition, Kiplagat maintained her strides that saw her open a gap of up to 200 meters to eventually emerge victorious in 27 minutes and 44 seconds in a seemingly perfect start of the season as she targets to compete in one of the major races.
The race today was very easy. I've never seen such a race like this one. You know, I was competing in Eldoret last week, but it was very competitive.
The men's race attracted a good number of the country's elite athletes, with the likes of Nixon Chepseba, Paul Kipsiele Koech and Vincent Teator lining up for the ultimate battle. Apart from sharing the name Geoffrey, New York Marathon champion Geoffrey Mutai and Geoffrey Kipsang also loved to run from the front. It did not take time for the men to be separated from the boys, with Kipsang leading from the first kilometer and eventually winning the battle of the front runners. Mutai settled for the second place in a sprint finish against Augustine Choge.
Sisi nikasema naweza nikaongoza utamu zote. Kwangu hii ni mwanzo na ni mzuri kujua kosa alafu nirekebisha. Geoffrey Mutai ako tough, so last year again tulikimbia naye na alikuwa nambari la pili, so mwaka huu nilikuwa najua tutafukuzana tena.
A team of 24 athletes has been selected to represent the police service during the national trials that will be held on 15th of February here in Nairobi, where the team to represent the country during the Africa Cross-Country Championships in Kampala, Uganda will be selected. Lynn Wachera, KTN.
Thanks for that, Lynn. And it was a try-galore weekend in the Kenya Cup rugby action, as many rugby enthusiasts in the country were left shocked by the scorelines. The big boys had to subject to their lowly opponents. Now, the biggest losers of the day were Mombasa RFC, who were annihilated 119-0 by bankers KCB. Homeboys were the other losers of the day after a 64-0 beating by top fry Nakuru.
Despite enjoying a rich vein of form and coming off a string of consecutive victories, Homeboys faltered at home, succumbing to a massive defeat at the hands of defending champions. Key players for Nakuru, including skipper Elton Makori, Lai Buyachi and Dalo Chitui, did not disappoint as they kept Homeboys' defense on toes for the better part of the tie. Nakuru took the lead from the onslaught of the affair and had a 33-0 lead before the breather. Halftime team talk did not pay off for Homeboys as they were still on the receiving end. Defensive lapse and lack of passing prowess from Homeboys gifted Wanyore opportunities that were well capitalized. After the final whistle, it was 64-0 in favor of Nakuru, a clear indication of their urge to defend the title. In a different tie, nondescript RC saw a fair against Strathmore. Strathmore, who have only lost one match this season, claimed the victory with 5 points difference after a 17-22 scoreline. KCB welcomed debutants Mombasa RFC at Roraka grounds in what was a one-sided affair. Mombasa did not trouble the experienced KCB, who won the encounter 119-0, a clear indication of a Mombasa-based side together with debutants Eldoret RFC and having a rough time playing with the big guns. Impala Cruz passed Eldoret 86-0 as Western Bulls took charge at their home turf to register a 47-3 win over Kenyatta University Black Blood. Moses Wahesi, KTN Sports.
The Kenya Sevens national team is still on with their build-up in George, South Africa, getting ready for the fourth leg of the IRB leg in Las Vegas. Kenya took part in the George Premier League rugby tournament and won all their games against Titans and Cheetahs. The first match against Titans was a tricky encounter as Kenya trailed the homeboys for the better part of the first half. It was Dan Sikuta who came to Kenya's rescue, scoring 2 quick tries to salvage a 19-12 win. Other try scorers in that match were Collins Injera and Dennis Ombachi. The second match was not that tight for Paul True's boys, with 2 tries from Dennis Ombachi, another from Oscar Uma, Billy Odhiambo and Tony O'War, giving Kenya a commanding 34-12 win. In the third match, Kenya took on SDW, who came in firing, but the Shujaa side came out the winners 24-12. Well, that's it for sports news tonight, but don't go anywhere. We have just a little bit more coming up for you before we conclude. Right now, do you remember the story we brought you last week of the colorful Masai wedding? 2 co-wives celebrated the wedding of their third rival. Well, we go back to Kimano town tonight in Kajiado County, where the newly married woman was shown to her new house in the company of her co-wives.
After the colorful wedding ceremony attended by hundreds of people who were left in awe at the kind of relationship the 3 co-wives had, another ceremony was organized, but this time round it was to welcome the newly married co-wife into the new home. Once again, donned in their traditional attire, Mr. and Mrs. Kirapash Lepau were escorted to their new brick house by family, friends and relatives amid song and dance. Conspicuously present were the co-wives. Here, local leaders and priests prayed for the house before letting the newlyweds set foot inside their home. After the prayers, it was time to go inside. Led by the local elder, they cut the ribbon of their new house, marking the beginning of their new life together. After everyone was gone, Sintoya Kirapash, who is an administration police officer, settles in her new home and immediately starts her house chores. One can never have enough blessings, and today the couple is attending a church service at the Amboseli Chapel. Here they receive blessings from the pastor, and the new bride seizes this opportunity to say a word or two. Now the long road of married life begins, but luckily for Sintoya, her co-wives are quite happy to have her. Najma Ismail, KTN.
Well, isn't that interesting? How often does that happen? Well, it does definitely happen with the Masai community. That's all we had time for you this evening. We thank you so much for watching and thank you for your feedback. Of course, getting a lot of feedback regarding that story about commercial sex workers. 10,000 a night, that continues to baffle many. Thanks for watching. Remember, it's a brand new year. Brand new checkpoint tomorrow. You don't want to miss it. It'll be exciting, I promise you. So do make sure you join us tomorrow. Brand new checkpoint. Don't miss it. In the meantime, have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow. My name is Yvonne Okwara.